Rebalancing is one of the least exciting disciplines in investing, and that is precisely why it works. It offers no dramatic stories, no bold predictions, no sense of genius, and yet, across decades of market history, financial celebrities repeatedly point to rebalancing as one of the quiet forces that preserved their fortunes when intelligence alone would not have been enough. Most investors believe risk comes from markets, volatility, crashes, headlines. But seasoned investors learn that risk more often comes from drift. Portfolios do not stay where you set them. Assets that perform well grow heavier. Assets that lag shrink quietly. Over time, the portfolio you own becomes very different from the one you intended to hold. Rebalancing exists to correct this slow betrayal of intention. At the beginning of an investment journey, risk tolerance is often theoretical. Investors say they can handle volatility. They imagine downturns abstractly. But markets have a way of testing imagination with reality. Financial celebrities learn that the true test of risk tolerance is not what you say you can endure, but what your portfolio actually demands you endure when conditions turn. Rebalancing translates abstract risk preferences into concrete behavior. It enforces discipline when emotion would prefer avoidance. When markets rise, rebalancing forces you to trim what feels good. When markets fall, it forces you to add where fear dominates. This inversion of instinct is uncomfortable by design. Comfort rarely protects capital. Another misconception is that rebalancing is about optimization. It is not. It is about risk control. Financial celebrities understood that portfolios fail not because returns were insufficient, but because risk quietly exceeded tolerance. Once that threshold is crossed, even sound strategies are abandoned at the worst possible moment. Rebalancing exists to prevent that rupture. One of the most important lessons from long-term investors is that risk is dynamic. It changes as markets move, as assets appreciate or decline, and as life circumstances evolve. A portfolio that felt conservative 5 years ago can become aggressive without a single new decision. Financial celebrities treated rebalancing as a way to continuously renegotiate risk with reality. Another subtle but critical insight is that rebalancing protects against narrative bias. When a particular asset class performs well, stories form around it. Justifications multiply. Confidence hardens into belief. Financial celebrities learn to distrust these moments. Rebalancing cut through stories by enforcing arithmetic. Numbers replace narratives. There is also a time dimension to rebalancing that beginners often miss. Rebalancing is not market timing. It does not attempt to predict peaks or bottoms. It assumes ignorance. Financial celebrities embraced this humility. They accepted that they would never know what comes next, so they built systems that function regardless. Rebalancing is one such system. Another function of rebalancing is emotional regulation. Portfolios that drift too far toward risk generate anxiety during downturns. Portfolios that drift too far toward safety generate regret during recoveries. Financial celebrities use rebalancing to keep emotions within a manageable range. Calm decision makers survive longer than brilliant ones. Importantly, rebalancing also interacts with time horizon. For long-term goals, volatility is tolerable only if it remains survivable. For near-term goals, even modest volatility can be destructive. Financial celebrities aligned rebalancing frequency and thresholds with the purpose of the capital. Risk without context is noise. Risk with context becomes manageable. Another overlooked benefit is the way rebalancing enforces humility. It forces you to admit that recent winners will not always keep winning. It forces you to buy what has disappointed you. This repeated act of intellectual submission keeps ego from hijacking strategy. Over decades, this humility compounds quietly. Rebalancing also clarifies the difference between conviction and concentration. Financial celebrities distinguish between believing in an asset and allowing it to dominate the portfolio. Conviction without limits becomes fragility. Rebalancing imposes limits even when conviction feels justified. The method of rebalancing matters less than the commitment to it. Some investors rebalance on a schedule. Others rebalance when allocations drift beyond defined ranges. Financial celebrities debated methods but agreed on principle. Rebalancing must be pre-decided. Decisions made in advance are easier to execute when emotions are loud. Another important insight is that rebalancing is most valuable when it feels hardest. During bubbles, trimming feels foolish. During crashes, adding feels reckless. Financial celebrities learn that discomfort is often a signal that rebalancing is doing its job. Ease is rarely protective. Rebalancing also interacts with taxation, liquidity, and transaction costs. Financial celebrities considered these frictions carefully, but did not allow them to override risk control. A perfectly tax-efficient portfolio that collapses psychologically is still a failure. Risk alignment mattered more than elegance. Over time, rebalancing reshapes how investors experience markets. Gains no longer invite overconfidence. Losses no longer invite despair. Movements become inputs, not judgments. Financial celebrities describe this shift as moving from reaction to stewardship. The portfolio is no longer a scoreboard, it is a system to be maintained. Another subtle transformation occurs in patience. Investors who rebalance regularly stop chasing novelty. They stop asking what to add next. They focus on maintaining coherence. This coherence produces fewer decisions, better sleep, and more consistent outcomes across cycles. As decades pass, financial celebrities often reduce complexity, but never abandon rebalancing. Even simple portfolios drift. Even conservative allocations change shape under pressure. Rebalancing remains relevant not because markets are unpredictable, but because people are. And this is where the story begins to narrow. Because once rebalancing is understood not as a mechanical adjustment, but as a behavioral safeguard, its true value becomes clear. It is the quiet act of choosing discipline over impulse, structure over story, and long-term survival over short-term comfort, operating continuously in the background of every investment journey, ensuring that risk remains aligned with intention even as markets tempt, frighten, and surprise, unfolding not through bold moves, but through small, repeated corrections that keep the portfolio and the investor within the bounds of what they can actually endure. Like the gentle correction of a ship's course that prevents a distant storm from becoming a shipwreck. And this is where rebalancing reveals its deepest purpose, not as a technical adjustment, but as a discipline that quietly preserves your ability to stay invested when it matters most. In the second half of this lesson, financial celebrities stop thinking of rebalancing as something they do and start thinking of it as something that runs. It becomes an operating system, not an event. The moment rebalancing requires courage, debate, or cleverness, it has already failed. Its power lies in automation of behavior, not brilliance of judgment. The most experienced investors learn that desired risk level is not a feeling, it is a boundary. Feelings fluctuate daily. Boundaries endure. Rebalancing exists to enforce those boundaries when emotions attempt to renegotiate them. When markets soar, optimism quietly argues for more exposure. When markets fall, fear argues for less. Rebalancing listens to neither. It listens only to the plan. One of the most important realizations is that rebalancing protects not just against downside, but against overconfidence. Many fortunes were lost not in crashes, but in extended bull markets where risk crept higher unnoticed. Financial celebrities often say their worst mistakes were made when everything was working. Rebalancing interrupts this false sense of mastery before it hardens into fragility. Another critical shift happens when investors accept that rebalancing is allowed to feel wrong. Selling winners feels disloyal. Buying losers feels foolish. Financial celebrities learn to reinterpret this discomfort as confirmation that the system is functioning. If rebalancing feels emotionally neutral, it usually means risk has not drifted far enough to matter. Over time, rebalancing also reshapes how investors define success. Instead of celebrating returns alone, they begin to value consistency of exposure. Did the portfolio behave as intended under stress? Did it remain survivable? Did it allow sleep? These questions replace short-term performance comparisons. Survival becomes the benchmark that quietly dominates all others. Another subtle benefit emerges around decision fatigue. Investors who rebalance systematically make fewer discretionary choices. Fewer choices mean fewer opportunities for bias, regret, and second-guessing. Financial celebrities prized this reduction in cognitive load. Energy saved on unnecessary decisions was redeployed toward patience and long-term thinking. Rebalancing also reinforces humility toward markets. It acknowledges that no asset deserves permanent dominance. Leadership rotates, regimes change, correlations shift. Financial celebrities saw rebalancing as an admission of uncertainty, not a weakness, but a strength. The portfolio was designed to admit ignorance and function anyway. As life evolves, rebalancing adapts with it. Risk tolerance declines or increases. Goals approach or recede. Financial celebrities adjusted target allocations deliberately at these inflection points, not reactively during turmoil. This sequencing mattered. Changes to strategy were made in calm, not chaos. Rebalancing then executed the transition gradually, without drama. Another important lesson is that rebalancing does not eliminate regret, it manages it. Every strategy leaves something behind. Rebalancing means you will never fully capture the best performing asset of any period. Financial celebrities accepted this trade-off willingly. They preferred enduring regret over enduring ruin. This choice defined longevity. Over decades, rebalancing also trains emotional detachment. Market moves become signals, not judgments. Gains invite trimming. Losses invite reinforcement. The investor stops asking whether the market is right or wrong and starts asking whether the portfolio remains aligned. This detachment is not indifference, it is professionalism. Eventually, rebalancing becomes invisible. It no longer feels like an action. It feels like maintenance, like brushing teeth, like locking doors. It prevents problems you rarely notice because they never fully form. Financial celebrities often smiled when asked about it because its success was measured by absence of panic, absence of forced selling, absence of catastrophic error. And so the lesson resolves into a truth that resists excitement but rewards patience. Rebalancing is how intention survives success and failure alike. It keeps risk where you chose it to be, not where markets push it. It transforms investing from a test of nerve into a process of stewardship. If this reflection resonated with you, pause and ask yourself one question. If markets move sharply tomorrow, would your portfolio's risk surprise you or reassure you? The answer reveals whether rebalancing is truly working for you. Share your thoughts. And if you want to keep learning how the most resilient investors protect themselves from their own impulses, stay connected. Subscribe, follow, and return. Because in the long run, wealth is not destroyed by volatility, it is destroyed by unmanaged drift.